What is up, guys? Welcome back to my tutorial series on Rust, and in this tutorial we're going to be covering if statements. Okay, so if statements is just a statement that tests the true or false of your conditions and returns something based on what you expect. So for example, let's say I have let x equal 5, right? So this is just simple, and to do an if statement you have to say if and then you enter your condition. You don't need any parentheses or anything. This is not Java. In fact, if you put parentheses and you put a statement here and then you put curly braces, it's going to give you a compile time error. Okay, so to do an if statement in Rust, it's kind of different. You just put the statement in here. So you say if x is equal to 5. Okay, so this is how you compare two numbers in Rust. You put double equal sign, okay, and then you put curly braces like that. So that's the body of your if statement. So this is what you want to do if x is equal to 5. You want to execute a certain task, or you want to print something to the screen. And in this case, we're going to print x to the screen. So we're going to do println, and we're going to say x equal to, and then x. Something like that. So this is very simple if statement. So let's try to run that. Okay, so let me go to my project folder real quick. So cd projects variables. Okay, so if you haven't seen my first tutorial on how to run Rust with cargo, you should check out my first and second tutorial and come back to this one so you can understand what I'm doing here. And I'm just gonna say cargo run. Okay, so as you can see, it's gonna print x is equal 5 to the screen. So because it checks the validity of your logic. So if your statement returns true, then it's going to execute whatever is in here. However, if this statement is false, then nothing's going to execute in this body of this if statement. So if I say something like this, so if I say x is not equal to 5, so this is how you say not equals, exclamation mark with an equal sign. Okay, so if x is not equal to 5, then print this. But this is not going to run because x is equal to 5. So when we run this program again, it's not going to print anything to the screen. Okay, so that's how you handle the if statements. It actually prints whatever is true. Now what if you want to handle what's false? Okay, so what if you want to handle the false case? Well, if that's what you want, then you have to use an else statement. An else statement executes if your first if statement does not. Okay, so if I put else, and then I'm just going to copy this real quick. So if this one fails, then this else statement will execute. However, if this does not fail, aka if this is true and this line executes, then this program will never execute. So if x is indeed equal to 5, then this expression is true, then this will never print. So it will never print this twice anymore. So if I go here and say cargo run, it will just say x equal to 5. However, I can make a case. I can say if x is equal to 5, then print x to the screen and say x is equal to 5. Else, if it's not equal to 5, if this is false, then print the rest. So I'm going to say x is not equal to x, or something like that. So let's say the value of x is 6. So let me change this real quick. So I'm just going to say is not equal to 5. Okay, so it's going to not execute this one because x is equal to 6. So it's going to jump to this else statement and print this sentence right here. So I'm going to run my program again. So cargo run. And it's going to say, well, 6 is not equal to 5. Okay, because it ignored this if statement. Now, what if you're in the case where there's multiple conditional, statements? What if you have multiple cases that you want to work with? If that's the case, then you want to use else if. Okay, so the else if is basically saying, well, if the first one doesn't execute the else if, and else if requires a condition. You have to put another condition in it. So I'm going to say else if x is equal to 6, okay, then execute this body. So this body will not execute unless x is equal to 6. Okay, so let's try this program again. And it will work because x is indeed equal to 6. Okay, now that's what you do if you want multiple if statements. And here I can put my last else statement, my last condition, by saying else print ln, and I'm gonna print x is neither, so I'm gonna say is neither 5 or 6, and then I'm gonna print x. So I'm gonna change the value of x to 7 here, and I'm gonna come back to my command run or terminal and say cargo run, and it's gonna say 7 is neither 5 or 6. Okay, why? Because our program starts from this if statement and it returns false here, so it's not gonna print this one. Then if it returns false, it checks the second if statement. It says else if it's not equals to 5, check if it's equal to 6, and if that's the case, then print this one. But it's not equal to 6, so it's going to jump to the last statement and say print ln this number. So this is what we do if both of these cases fail. Okay, now we talked about variable bindings in my last tutorials, and I told you guys that variable bindings are very powerful, and I'm going to show you how powerful they are. So let's make another variable. In fact, you can do this only in Rust. Well, I'm not sure if you can do this only in Rust, but Rust is pretty powerful for this specific reason when it comes to variables. Okay, so I can say let y equal, if I can combine an if statement with a variable binding. Okay, so I can say let y equal if x is equal to 7, then 6. Okay, so what does this do? In fact, I can even combine else if statements. I can say else if, else if x is equal to, or x is greater than 7, then -1. Okay, else, and I'm gonna say here actually let me make this 1, else I'm gonna say -1. Okay, so pretty simple. This expression is actually pretty simple. Why? All I'm saying is we have a variable y, and depending on the value of x, our y is gonna have a different value. Okay, so I know this seems confusing, but bear with me. So I'm saying if x is equal to 7, which is the case here, then the value of y is going to be equal to 0. Okay, so we can test that. We can say print ln, and we can say y is equal to brackets and then y. Okay, so this should print 0. So let's go run our program. So again, it says y is equal to 0. Okay, so what if that's not the case? It's going to actually jump to this statement. So what if x is greater than 7? So what if x is 8 or 9? Okay, so in this case, the value of y will be 1. Okay, so let's run that. So cargo run, y is equal to 1. Okay, let's test the last case, and let's say else -1. So if x is not equal to 7 and x is not greater than 7, so let's say x is 6, then y is going to be equal to -1. Okay, so let's run this, and again, like we expected, y is equal to -1. Okay, so that's how you can combine variable bindings with if statement, and that's really powerful. Okay, because an if statement in the end is just an expression, and expressions always return values, and we're going to talk a little bit more about expressions in the later tutorials, but for now I just want to give you guys the general idea of if statements and how they work with variables. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure you leave a comment, rate, subscribe, and share this video if you find it helpful, and thanks guys for watching. I'll see you next time.